Hi, welcome to my channel, and it's Friday. That means it's time to talk about some board games. Generally, I'd be doing a hot takes video, but with my new setup here, it makes it a little bit easier to get games on the table to display them and show them. So I figured, let's try knocking out a small box game review this Friday and see how this goes, and maybe make this the new norm. And today, man, I got a good one for you. Today's review is going to be on Naishi. So Naishi is a small box two-player card game. It's basically a bit of a set collector tableau builder. And if you've been watching my channel at all, I'm a bit of a sucker for small box two-player games. I have a pretty large collection of them, and I enjoy getting more. So let's dive into this and talk about what Naishi is, and then talk about some of my opinions on it, and give my kind of final verdict at the end here. So let's kick things off with an overview of Naishi. So right here, I got Naishi set up. Like I said, it's a two-player game. It is a tableau builder, set collector, and essentially you're trying to develop out your territory. Now, it has a very pretty Japanese theme here. I love the art style here. And yeah, so the way the game sets up is that we have this river row of cards. This is where the players are going to be drafting their cards from. And then back here is my mountains. I actually have the way I picture this is I have a 2x5 grid of cards here. So you can see I only have 1x5 here in my mountains, but my hand, these cards here, this makes up that back row. So these are going to be secret for my opponent. Basically, I have to pretend that my hand is part of this grid, and I cannot reorder these cards however I want, because essentially at the end of the game, these cards are just going to go down into that grid and then we're going to score. So a lot of these cards are going to be scoring based on the position they end up in the grid. They're going to depend on other cards they have next to them and stuff. So adjacency is going to be important, which is why, like, when you have that hand of cards, you're not allowed to reorder them. They are basically just a secret row of development cards from your opponent. Over the course of the game, maybe you want to track what your opponent has, maybe not. That's going to be up to your play style. But the way this game plays is it's really straightforward. On your turn, there's really one kind of main action. We'll talk about some of the other actions in a second here, but for the most part, you are going to be doing what is called a develop action. Develop is literally just go out to the river, say, you know what, I want this monk card. Then you're going to actually take that monk card and you're going to replace it either in the exact same position in your line here or in your hand. So essentially, I could replace this far right card, or I could replace the far right card in my hand, and I will do that, and I'm going to discard that card from that position. We will reveal the next card, then it's going to be my opponent's turn. So basically, I'm just looking out here and saying, oh, what cards are available, what are the scoring opportunities on those cards based on the positions, and where do I want them in my tableau. So for example, that monk card I just took here, let's take a look at it. It has a diagram down here that basically says, if I have monks in my hand, so it's the back row, they will be worth 5 points at the end of the game. So basically, I want to get monks in my hand to be able to score 5 points. Pretty straightforward scoring, but then it also gets plus 2 points for each adjacent Torii. So Torii is another type of card. Basically, it's saying, okay, I want to get monks in my hand, and then I also would like them to be adjacent to Tories. The Tories can be in my hand or out in the line. As long as they have orthogonal adjacency, I'm going to score some bonus points for each one of those monk cards. So essentially, this is part of that, let's call it the set collection part. Like, you're trying to collect the cards that synergize together, that are going to gain you those bonus points during the game. So we have another card out here, like the Sentinel. The Sentinel says, okay, it's going to score 3 points as long as it's not adjacent to any other Sentinel. And then you actually score an extra bonus point, 4 bonus points, if it's adjacent to a fort. So you're trying to basically pair up those Sentinels with the forts, not put the Sentinels next to each other. So you're trying to manage the positioning of these cards in your tableau. And yeah, you have that limitation on when you draft from that river. It has to go in the exact same column that you draft from. That creates a relatively interesting puzzle. But to make this game work, you need some ways to manipulate this. And this is where we get to the coolest part of the game, the part that I think is kind of the best part, the best design part out of Naishi. And that is the emissary board over here. So when you take that develop action, before or after your turn, you can actually take a free action as long as you have one of your emissary tokens available to you. And on this emissary board, you can just plop that token down and then take that action on that board. We're going to come back to this middle one. This is a special one. But essentially, We have one action over here. This is going to be just discard 2 cards from the river. So basically I would take 2 cards and be like, you know what, I don't like these little, these purple dudes. So I'm going to discard both of those and we're going to reveal these cards. And now I can take my action. Or I could have done that at the end of my turn. Maybe I'm like, oh, my opponent's collecting those purple dudes. So you know what, I'm going to block them and discard those 2 purple dudes and move on. And yeah, so they don't get them anymore for that scoring opportunity. But look at this. I just revealed a monk and I'm like, ooh, I am collecting monks. So now when I do my draft, maybe I'm like, ooh, I'm going to take that monk. I'm going to put it in my hand and I'm going to get rid of this card. There we go. Now onto my opponent's turn. So that is one of those actions on the emissary board. The other one is the slightly more complicated but incredibly powerful move, and this is the swap action. Basically, this allows you can swap 2 cards in the same row. So I could swap it in the river row, I could swap the cards in the line on the table, or I could look at my hand and I can be like, you know what, I want to swap this sentinel with this mountain over here for some reason. So that allows me to change the positioning of the cards in my hand. I could also swap to the table. So if I was like, you know what, I want to get that sentinel onto the table, I'm going to swap that sentinel down and put that mountain in my hand. So that is the swap card action. That is really how you're going to be playing with the positioning of these cards during the game. An incredibly powerful action that you're definitely going to want to utilize during the game. Now let's get on to kind of the last actions in the game. So when you take that develop, like I said, you get to do develop as your main action, and then, you know, putting out an emissary for either that discard or that swap action. That is going to be a free action that you get to do before or after your turn. But there's a couple other actions that you can do on your turn. And one of those is recall your emissary. So essentially, if I have both my emissaries out, to get them back, I need to spend a full turn to do a recall action. And this brings up the pacing in this game. And this is where I think the game shines, is with that pacing. Because you were trying to kind of race to that end game for your opponent. You're trying to get more points than your opponent by the time that end game is triggered. And your emissaries are your way of kind of manipulating the grid a bit, manipulating the cards that are out on the table. So those are critical to kind of mitigating the luck aspect of these card flips that happen during the game. So having access to your emissaries is super important, but taking a full turn to just recall them and not develop your land, like, ooh, man, now you're letting your opponent get ahead. So yeah, this is where the emissary board and the pacing of those actions, I think Naishi does a fantastic job with just managing kind of that luck aspect of getting these cards up and managing the pacing with these emissary tokens. Now, the other action you can take on your turn is to declare the end game. As long as one of these river piles is empty, so let's say this guy is gone, as long as there is one river pile gone, someone can just say on their turn, you know what? I declare the end game. Basically, this kind of reminds me of, you know, sea salt and paper. It's kind of like you have gotten into a position where you're like, I don't think I'm going to score a whole lot more at this point, and I think I'm ahead of my opponent, and they're going to get one more turn, but I don't think they're going to be able to catch me on their score. So I'm just going to say, you know what, I'm done, and we're gonna call the end. You take your last turn, and then we're gonna score points and see who wins. So yeah, it's kind of like taking that risk in sea salt and paper and saying, you know what, I think I've done it. So, let's end this. Now, if no one declares the end game, it's just going to end after 2 of the river piles are empty. Basically, once 2 of those are gone, now it's going to trigger the end game, and both players are just going to have an equal number of turns. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Now, the very last action you have is this special emissary spot over here. This is an Imperial Decree. Now, when you go here, like, you're going to be spending an emissary, and that emissary is locked for the rest of the game. Even if you do a recall, you can't get him back. He's stuck. He's stuck out of there on that Imperial Decree spot. So you reduce yourself down to 1 emissary. So why would you want to do this? Well, it's because this Imperial Decree is it's a pretty powerful action. Basically, you have 2 options. You can exchange well, that's kind of one option. You basically exchange a card with your opponent from the exact same position. So maybe I say, you know what, in my hand, I have this card over here. I'm going to exchange that one with this card over here, and we're going to take that. Hey, look at that. I managed to get a card with a thing on it. So, and that goes in their position. This card comes into my position, and there we go. That is the Imperial Decree. This is a way that if you are paying attention to what your opponent's collecting, maybe they have a card you want, and you're like, ooh, I'm going to use that Imperial Decree to take that one. Or you see that they have a super big scoring opportunity in front of them. Maybe they have a card that's like, oh man, that's gonna score you so many points, and you use that Imperial Decree to kind of block them, to sabotage their scoring possibilities. So that Imperial Decree can be a bit of a game changer in Naishi. So now moving on to this endgame in Naishi. So once everything's done, basically your goal is to kind of get rid of these mountain cards. Everyone starts with 8 mountain cards in their tableau, and you're going to be trying to fill out this tableau with these other cards in your in your area, and then at the end of the game, you're just going to be laying out your cards in the order that they are in. And then you're just going to go through and you are going to score them on this score sheet. Look at that, beautiful score sheet. The game does not come with a pencil or pen, so have one on hand. And yeah, you're just going to see who ends up with the highest number of points at the end of Naishi. And that's it. This is one of the good things about Naishi. Naishi is pretty easy, it's pretty straightforward, pretty easy to teach. The biggest thing is just reminding people that, hey, that your hand of cards, you do not get to reorder these freely. You have to use your emissary tokens to reorder these. These are part of your scoring tableau at the end of the game. So that's really the only crux in this game, is getting over that. End game is pretty straightforward. The scoring conditions on these cards are pretty straightforward. There's also a great reference for how each one of these cards score. So I think everything in Naishi is very clear, easy to teach, and easy to play. Like, this is a quick game to set up, a quick game to play. I think you can knock out a game of Naishi in probably 15 minutes. You generally want to do maybe 2 games back to back, so you guys take turns being the lead player. And yeah, that's the overview of how Naishi plays. So what do I think about this? I've kind of hinted to some of the things that I like about Naishi. Like, I do think that the set collection part of this is interesting. The grid placement, the idea that you have that hidden set of cards from your opponent in that grid placement. This reminds me a little bit of kind of, Castle Combo. If you enjoy Castle Combo, I think Naishi might be a game that you will enjoy. It has a little more head-to-head aggressiveness, because it does have that open drafting, so you can hate draft from your opponent, you can be upset with your opponent taking the cards you need. There's also the luck of the flop, so when someone drafts a card, then a card pops up, and it's like, oh, well, that card's great for you, so you're going to take that one. So there's some of those aspects in this, but overall, like, this grid-based scoring, it's very straightforward, and it is, it can be pleasant to kind of go for those strategies and try to, especially the Ronin. The Ronin here, this guy he's kind of the shoot the moon strategy. Basically, if you get 10 different cards in your village here, you just get 45 points, which is a pretty big amount of points in this game. I would say games end around between, let's say, 20 to 80. So 45 points can be a pretty big set of your points. So going for that Ronin, but getting 10 different cards, that's one of each card in the deck. That can be really, really hard. And also that emissary token that can wreck you if you're going for the Ronin, because someone can just take one of the cards out of your tableau, and you can go from getting 45 points down to 15 with one move in the game. So Ronin's like shooting the moon type of strategy. And I think it's fun that those strategies are in Naishi. Like, it is a pleasant puzzle to try to achieve, to try to go for those set collections, and to work against your opponent, and to work on that pacing with the emissary tokens, like racing to that end game and trying to get to that point where you have a better scoring grid than your opponent. But this brings me down to how do I feel about this game personally? There are just some things that are not for me in Naishi. One, grid-based scoring. I'm not someone that loves Castle Combo. I don't enjoy this tableau building, set collection, point scoring thing, especially in a 2-player game. Like, I don't like getting to the end of a 2-player game and being like, well, I don't know who wins, so let's pull out the score sheet and let's tally points. Like that's not something I really look for in my 2-player games. I like my 2-player games to have a very clear victory condition. Like Duel for Cardia is a newer one that just has a very straightforward victory condition where the game is just, once someone gets 5 victories, game's over. Great. We have Agent Avenue up here. Agent Avenue, once one player catches the other player, game over. Great. We have just all these other games that just have very straightforward, even Splendor Duel. I kind of want to compare this a little bit to Splendor Duel. Splendor Duel has an acceleration to it as you play the game. You start to collect and build up your engine. Now Naishi is not trying to do that. It's not trying to accelerate. Each turn is kind of the same. It feels very similar. It's like you've kind of gotten your cards. You're like, well, I'm just looking for a certain card at this point. Where Splendor Duel, you're kind of building that engine, accelerating towards that end game, and you're racing to that end game. Once someone reaches the end game, they've won the game. Game over. Just reaching the end of a 2-player game and reaching for that score sheet, it is something, it's kind of like a pet peeve of mine. So I think if you don't have that pet peeve, then you can get past that, and Naishi might be for you. It is something that is going to prevent Naishi from hitting my table, though. Now, the other part of this that I need to call out is that I don't get the sense of tension that I've read some other reviews online for other players on Naishi, and they talk about now the choices they see are tense in this game, and they're like, oh, this is such a good decision space and everything. I don't get any tension in this game. It's kind of like if I've grabbed a monk in the early game, well, now my opponent's probably not going for monks because I've kind of ruined the monk strategy for them. And that means they're not going for Tories, so I'm just looking for Tories to pair with my monks. I'm not worried about them taking Tories because, like, they know I need Tories. So it's kind of like my actions are kind of defined for the rest of the game. It's kind of like I'm trying to burn through these river cards and find Tories and monks. Like, that's my strategy at this point. Same thing with Sentinels. Same thing with Forts. Like the Sentinels and Forts pairing together. It's just since every card only synergizes with one other type of card in the deck, it's hard to go head to head with your opponent. It's really, really hard because once your opponent starts going for a certain strategy, it's kind of like, well, that strategy is not worth it for you anymore. And then also preventing your opponent from getting the cards they need. Like you are essentially wasting a turn to damage your opponent's scoring opportunity, but you're also damaging your own scoring opportunity because now you're competing for the same maximum number of points that you can achieve with that strategy. So it's kind of like, is that trade-off worth it? Is that what you value? And even like this emissary action where going to the imposing the imperial decree, I didn't find that there were a lot of times that I wanted to do this action. I remember doing it in one game just to spice things up and add a little bit of excitement to the game. It didn't help me in any way. I think I actually still lost that game, but it was just kind of like, oh man, I need to do something to add some like interesting dynamics to this, to Naishi. So yeah, for me, I don't feel that tension. If you're someone that maybe if you play, like I said, Castle Combo is a very queer one to compare this to. If you're playing Castle Combo and you're one of those people where you see that card flip and you're like, oh, that's going to work perfect in my grid. I hope it's there by the time I need it. Like, then Naishi might land for you. I can see people really, really enjoying this game. It just doesn't land for me. Like, the tension in this game doesn't land. I would rather play something like Duel for Cardia, Agent Avenue, Desperate Oasis, even Splendor Duel, which I'm not even crazy about. I feel like that would be something that I find more engaging and more tense to play. Or even Hanamakoji if I'm looking for something really head-to-head, really tense for my two-player dueling games. So that's kind of where I land with Naishi. Like, this is one of those games that I always find hard to review. It's kind of like this is a 6-7 for me. It's not a bad game. It's not that I'm gonna turn down a play of Naishi if someone wants to play it. Like, I'll have a fine time with it. But do I recommend a 6-7 game when there's so many games out there to play? Man, yeah. So it makes it hard because I can't say like this game's bad, but I also can't be like, hey, go out and seek Naishi. It's fantastic. This just lands in a category where I'm like, I had a pleasant time with it, happy I played it, but it's not staying in my collection because there's just other games I'd rather play over this one. So that's where I land with this. That's where I land with Naishi. It is good. I think that this will land for some people. Some people are going to love this game. I think it doesn't have it's a great dueling game with a little bit of that head-to-head tension, but not a lot. It's not very aggressive with the other player. You kind of reach that end game and you're probably like, I don't know who won. Let's do the score sheet and see how this played out. And then next time you just reset, really easy to reset, and you play again and yeah, add up the points and see who won again. So pretty straightforward game, really easy to table, not a very mean head-to-head game. So Naishi is fine. That's my final review of this game. It is a fine game that yeah, it's just not going to be sticking around for me. Let me know if you have any questions about this game because that's going to do it for my review of Naishi. Sorry that this is I don't have any strong recommendations for this one, but I hope I gave you an idea of how this game plays so you have an idea if this is something you would enjoy. But yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'm more than happy to answer them. And as always, thank you for watching and thank you for spending your time with me, and I will talk to you next time.